If you look at the current state of wrestling games at the moment, it's clear that while games like Fire Pro Wrestling has made a dent in it, the crown seems to be firmly glued onto the head of the WWE 2K series. And it's not without good reason. Ever since 2013, they've been providing the official yearly releases, and for the most part, they have delivered great experiences across the board. I mean, they're no know your role for the PS1, but I'll take what I can get. And it's actually quite interesting when you can look into what we almost got when it comes to wrestling games, as there have been a fair few titles that didn't manage to make the main roster and unfortunately ate the pinfall early on in development. However, today we're going to strap on our what if goggles and take a look at some of the greatest that never were. I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 cancelled wrestling video games that you'll never get to play. Number 8. WWE Titans Parts Unknown. Before beginning a fruitful association with Nintendo, which resulted in the successful spin-offs Luigi's Mansion, Dark Moon, and a Wii reimagining of Punch-Out!, Next Level Games pitched a very unorthodox wrestling game to the then publishers THQ. Concept art trawled from the personal portfolios of current and former Next Level staffers unearthed the existence of a proposed WWE Titans Parts Unknown. The name offers a slight clue as to its direction. The superstars were turned into literally larger-than-life characters and transported from the ring to highly stylized, fantastical settings based on exaggerated aspects of their personas. As a taster, an even more supersized Triple H called a crumbling castle courtyard his home, replete with a trademark Iron Cross adorning a rug, whilst John Cena was set to duke it out on the rooftops of a murky metropolis. Think WWF WrestleMania the arcade game, but multiplied by about 1 million. As intriguing as the Tekken-like take was, publishers THQ weren't keen and nixed the idea before it could proceed beyond the concept stage. Number 7. WCW Mayhem Too. After Kodiak Interactive's quite frankly ridiculous decision to remove the ring from a wrestling game in the utterly rank WCW Backstage Assault, publishers EA handed back the dev duties to the team behind No Mercy, aka a very smart choice. The new studio looked at the feedback and the criticism of Backstage Assault, which basically looked like a giant middle finger, and began work on WCW Mayhem 2 to make sure that it was the exact opposite of this game, and tried to make it a souped-up PS2 sequel very much in the ring. Unfortunately, the grand designs were soon consigned to the dustbin. When WWE purchased WCW in March 2001, EA's contract went kaput in the process. The studio's efforts weren't completely in vain, however. I mean, their work was recontextualized for 2003's ludicrous, or should we say ludicrous, hip-hop grappling sim Def Jam Vendetta, which was bloody lovely, and I am so keen for it to make a return. Please, 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 EA, please. Number 6. WWE Brawl. At the start of the 2010s, THQ devised a multi-branch strategy for their WWE video games in an attempt to broaden the appeal of the potentially lucrative license. In addition to the likes of the WWE SmackDown vs. Raw series and the weird arcade action of the WWE Legends of WrestleMania games, the studio also set about developing something truly out there, an open-plan brawler in the same mold as Sega's cult classic Power Stone. Now, if you've never played Power Stone, it is an absolutely phenomenal party brawler which would see evenings eaten away as you and your mates batter the absolute piss out of each other. The art style was set to be completely over the top, with superstars past and present being given an exaggerated comic book overhaul, and arenas were going to be a mix of in-ring and backstage arenas. Then, unfortunately, WCW Backstage Assault happened. No word of a lie, that game dropped, and then suddenly so did WWE Brawl off the goddamn development radar. It's especially strange when you consider that they'd actually poured money into the project and even went so far as to begin development of an animated series to release alongside it. So yeah, thanks WCW Backstage Assault, you were the worst for so many things. Number 5. UWC. Almost 20 years after WCW was given the final nail in its coffin, some footage emerged thanks to a YouTuber called Archon1981 who had stumbled across a never-before-seen wrestling game that was manufactured in 1989. UWC, developed by Japanese studio Sata, was something of a cross between Sega's Master System classic Pro Wrestling and the NES WCW game that Nichibitsu actually brought to the stores in the same year. The acronym presumably stood for Universal Wrestling Corporation, the name under which WCW was first founded following Ted Turner's takeover of Jim Crockett Promotions in 1988. Footage of the game suggests it was fairly close to completion before being canned, featuring a full roster including luminaries such as Sting, Ric Flair, and the Road Warriors, as well as the Midnight Express, Barry Windham, and someone who we're convinced is Jimmy Garvin. Number 4. WWE No Mercy Game Boy Color Edition. As a companion to the N64's best wrestling game ever, No No Mercy, a minuscule Game Boy Color version was scheduled with the intention of releasing simultaneously alongside its bigger brother. Not much is really known about the planned pared-down No Mercy, other than it most likely would have been similar to the WWF WrestleMania game that also made its way onto the Game Boy Color alongside its big brother counterpart, but thanks to some tech specs that were found with the game, it seemed that it would have extra functionality thanks to the N64's super-duper high-tech, at the time that is, transfer pack. For those of you born too late to enjoy these types of toys, the transfer pack allowed you to slot a Game Boy into a device and then shove that into the gaping maw of the N64 in a manner that echoes my love-making techniques with your mum, except change out the Game Boy to my length, the device to a condom as we don't want any more of yous out there, and the N64 to her, well, you know what that is, her massive fanny. There's my one per list. Anyway, thanks to some hacker lads and lasses, we do know a few features that were meant to be in the game, one of which sounds utterly mental. In order to send your Game Boy created wrestler, you had to go through an Iron Man mode as Triple H to unlock yourself on the N64. That's actually very cool, but totally unexpected. Number 3, TNA Impact 2. Despite being in operation for the best part of 2 decades, TNA only got one solitary game out of its tenure. Now, to put that into context, ECW, who were around at their peak for about 5 years, managed to get off 2 games. And that is a real shame because the storyline of the original Impact game was actually really refreshing, putting you in the tights of suicide as you rose to the top. Plus, the action was pretty solid and the game managed to look brilliant compared to its WWE rival. In fact, the original game sold so well that there were plans put in place for a sequel titled, unsurprisingly, TNA Impact 2. However, there was one beast that even Brock would cower to, and that is the financial collapse of the mid-2000s, which planted and pinned developers midway and therefore caused them to close. This means that despite being halfway through development of the game, they were forced to sell the assets, including the TNA license, and nothing has been done with said license since. And since things are not exactly going smoothly with the company as is, it probably won't be in the future either, which is just sad. Number 2, Super Mario Spikers. Some years after THQ nixed their out-of-the-box WWE Titans Parts Unknown idea, Next Level Games tried again, this time with another non-traditional take on the sports, which unfortunately also failed to get off the ground. Things started off well though, with Nintendo being very pleased with the studio's work on Mario Strikers Charged, so much so that they commissioned another project and told the team that they could go in a more creative direction. Next Level chose volleyball. I know that doesn't sound like wrestling, but it totally went that way. Over the months, the title evolved into a wrestling volleyball hybrid, featuring some hyper-pronounced arenas based around the franchise's established characters. Sadly, Next Level's dreams were to be dashed a second time. Nintendo refused to greenlight the game, with one of the developers enigmatically citing that it was down to a, quote, Japanese honor thing. I don't know what to make of that. And number 1, WWF Backlash 64. There is a good reason why many posit the N64 outing No Mercy as the absolute best wrestling game of all time. It was an arcade joy and a blast with friends, plus it had a surprisingly deep customization suite to boot. However, because Nintendo decided to pull focus from the N64 to work on the GameCube, it meant that they accidentally robbed us of a potential No Mercy beta in the form of WWF Backlash 64, which was apparently 30% complete before Ninty pushed that little purple button. Little is actually known about the working title, though it is believed that it would have featured a Hell in a Cell matchup, as well as a 6-man tag option, presumably leveraging the N64's expansion pack to shoulder the extra load, which just sounds lovely and is a shame that we'll never get to play it. Let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below, but before you go anywhere, I just want to say something that will hopefully lift your spirits and put you in the right mood for this day ahead. I hope that you are well and treating yourself the best that you possibly can. I know that there's a lot going on in life just in general. It's the beginning of the year, we've made a lot of promises. Can we keep them? Who knows? I just hit my hand on the table, but I'm not going to let that stop me, because you shouldn't stop you either. It's okay to take a break, it's okay to reflect, and it is okay to be emotional every once in a while. So what I'm trying to say is, just remember this: you have been awesome. Never forget that. I've been Jules. You can go follow me at RetroJ with a 0 over on Twitter, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye!
Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture, and if you're a fan of what you've just seen, then make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for daily wrestling podcasts, where we not only review Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live, we also discuss the events before and after of pay-per-views. We have roundtable discussions discussing burning wrestling issues, interviews, and a roundup of the week, complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on wrestle culture. Thanks for watching. I've been Adam from What Culture, and I'll see you soon.